This is an interview with Ben Brown by Cliff Kuhn for the Georgia Government Documentation Project of Georgia State University on Tuesday, November 6th, 1996, at Ben Brown's apartment in Atlanta, Georgia. I just was sort of thinking, because of the race yesterday in Cleveland and so forth, that maybe we could just start off with what interaction you had with the Secretary of State's office, late 60s, early 70s, Francis Duncan, Mr. Ben Fortson, etc., concerning elections, concerning, registration, concerning issues of import to black participation in politics.
Ben Fortson was a real legend in his own time, and little do people want to admit, Max Cleland's acceptability probably benefited from that image that Ben Fortson had. He was paraplegic. That is not to be a derogatory assessment, but for 35, nearly 40 years, Ben Fortson rolled in. He had that position. So Max Cleland picked up on that. I'm sure that was no coincidence that that's what he chose to do. Ben Fortson was a good man. Max was a good man. Francis Duncan, it's interesting you mentioned her because she was a key person whom I always talked with when I went in there. But there was never a burning issue that was a problem when Ben Fortson, for me. Now, I don't know, in terms of registration and stuff like that.
Well, under what sort of circumstances would you go in there?
Well,
talk with either of them?
I never went in there about voter stuff. I would go in there to represent some people who wanted corporate information or to qualify for state, that kind of thing. It was all facilitation. We were always on the same team, Ben Fortson and Ben Brown. Matter of fact, I had set my eyes on a statewide position, and I truly wanted to succeed Ben Fortson when he would leave. I was not going to ever run against him, but when he passed away, I was in a position to lobby for that position to be appointed because George Busby was governor. And I had in my matter of fact, I had already told him I would love to do that if that
told Busby
that if the seat had become open during his tenure, I would love to do that. But I changed my mind because the opportunity to be involved strategically in a presidential campaign came up. And that's where my energies went. I forgot about state government.
Busby didn't. He appointed. Who did he?
Well, I was not up. I removed myself from that whole psychic.
Okay.
And because I was going to Washington.
But you never had any dealings directly about, again, polling places, registration hours, or any of that.
No, I never dealt with them on that.
How about Justice Department? Implementation of the Voting Rights Act, Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, and so forth.
No, that was not really a major problem around Atlanta. I don't know, some parts of Georgia, I guess it was, but I was never personally involved. Okay. No, I was so driven to make it work for us. I just don't remember any acute issues evolving out of that voter rights context.
Right. Okay.
Looked like to me voter education would probably BEP would always handle that, or the NAACP. So I just personally never got involved.
Okay. We sort of ended last time talking about the 1968 Democratic National Convention and the Maddox delegation, the challenge and the splits within the challenge and so forth. So, but let's go back to Maddox. And your assessment of him, your relationship with him as governor, and so forth. Okay, so let's take us through the Maddox years.
Well, let's start with the very beginning, preparing for the 1966 session of the Georgia legislature, where Maddox had been elected. Bo Calloway, Maddox had been. We had two people, neither had a majority.
Right.
And it came to the legislature to decide. Bo Calloway entertained the group. Q.V. Williamson, our Republican city alderman, got us together, and we had a session with Bo Calloway.
Who was us? All the
who was the Republican nominee.
No, you said
Oh, the Black Caucus members.
There was already, it was called the Black Caucus at that time, Legislative Black Caucus.
Well, we weren't organized.
But it was all the black members, right?
Right. About 8 of us, I guess.
Okay, so QV.
We put that together, and we were at the Marriott. I guess it was the Marriott Hotel in Bo Calloway. Came in there, and he never really asked us for his support. He started talking stuff. I said, well, what does this man? I mean, he doesn't want us to help him. I mean, he never really asked us for our vote. He missed an opportunity because he really could have been governor. We had to swing. And then we met with Lester Maddox. And Maddox walked around there, poured coffee, touched hands, asked for votes, each and every one of us, individually. And then got on the phone. He lobbied our group. Now, none of us were going to, at least I wasn't going to vote for him. It looked like somebody in the group might have voted for him. But I didn't vote for him, but I was impressed with the manner in which he went about getting his vote. And I was unimpressed by Bo Calloway. See, I could have voted for Bo Calloway, and we could have cast 8 votes for Bo Calloway, but he didn't make it convenient for us to do that. It wasn't that narrow, but you never know if the votes had been counted, somebody else might have switched if they had known that we were going a certain way. You understand how that works? And Big Mo, we could have added to Big Mo for Bo Calloway.
Right.
But he didn't want it.
Huh. What was that like? That I mean, what were y'all feeling when you're called into the room with Mannix? To meet with Mannix.
Well, everybody looked at it, laughed, and played with it, and said, "Why are we doing this?" But we had a public responsibility. We had the responsibility of electing a governor for the state of Georgia. A man who had gained these votes based on all the redneck stuff that you've ever heard of. But that had been done. That's what democracy is about. So we rose to the occasion, and we were quite responsible in what we had to do.
And y'all, with the possible exception of one, abstained, right, in the actual floor vote.
That's right. I abstained. Yeah, there were more than one abstention.
Yeah, I think
Julian abstained, I think.
I think you're right. Most, if not all, certainly.
Most of us. I think there were 12 abstentions.
What about again, sort of contact with Maddox while he was governor, and an assessment of Maddox as governor?
Maddox did not cause Georgia to go backwards. It caused Georgia to stand still. And even maybe if I had to make an assessment on something had to happen, it would have been forward, because he hired people in some key positions, which surprised us. He did not cause any real trauma to anything that had been going on during the Sanders administration. So, matter of fact, it was during his administration that we got our first state troopers. Officers, state troopers, if I recall correctly.
Now, of course, Maddox's election prompts the rise of the Democratic caucus and the rise of the speaker, and
oh yeah, that
legislative independence of the governor.
Oh yeah. Well, see, they were embarrassed by him too, but they knew the importance of having a good relationship with the governor's office. The Tom Murphys and the George L. Smiths and the George Busbys. Oh, they were some smart boys. They, they were politicians. George Busby was a great politician and still is. I mean, I admire him greatly. I sort of looked at him and followed his lead. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Then, were you in town during the King assassination and funeral?
I was in town, yes. I had just come home. Matter of fact, I heard of the incident on the radio, leaving a meeting at the Butler Street YMCA. And I heard it, I almost wrecked my car. It was a very sad time. Oh, it was just horrible. And then Robert Kennedy came down here during the funeral and met with the members of the Georgia Black Caucus, black legislators. We met at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Atlanta. This is like a month before he was assassinated.
Right.
2 months, April. And that was gave us an opportunity to get some input into Bobby. Of course, that was my second time meeting him. I met him when I was graduating from law school. Oh, well, not graduating, when I was a freshman in law school, when he was Attorney General. The freshman guides took us over to the Justice Department to meet Bobby Kennedy, who was GA, I mean AG. Yeah.
So what transpired between Bobby and the black legislators here?
Well, we had we had dialogue on some of the issues facing African Americans. Of course, we were calling ourselves black then. It was just a discussion, and we complained about the various discriminatory practices that we were experiencing. And one that was primary was, at the time, blacks were not being included in television, image making industry. And we hit that pretty hard. But say, you guys have influence, so make it happen. I mean, we know you can't do it by law, but you certainly can do it by influencing the media.
As I recall, it was like a couple months later that Cosby's series on being black in America came out. Narrated by Cosby.
Well,
Just
a
a
lot
couple
of
months
things,
later.
a lot of things came out, but that was really the top of the agenda when Bobby was here, trying to get them to understand that we can elect and elect and elect, but if you don't help us with the image making, then we got a real challenge. That was very paramount in the minds of people during that period. And so then you shoot and kill one of the leaders. Then you put all this violent stuff on television, and those were the kinds of issues that we were talking about.
What was your take on Kennedy from that meeting, or a couple times?
Well, like I said, I was a Kennedy kid. I was a Kennedy kid in '60, so
Right.
by '68, I was surely a Kennedy kid.
Did you support Bobby's candidacy?
I sure did. Sat right there and looked at him get killed on television. My son's name is Benjamin Kennedy Brown.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm sitting, that's where I got it from. And I saw that happen, and I said, well, I'm going to keep this tradition going on. We had a problem trying to find a middle name for my oldest boy. So he was at the hospital at being born, May 28th. And my wife had to stay in the hospital a little longer, so he had not come home. And Bobby was killed during that period. They were still at the hospital. So my father's name is General Lee Brown. My wife's father's name was Joe Louis Tucker. So, not Joe Louis Tucker, Jesse James Tucker.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think Joe Louis.
No,
Right.
Joe Louis would have been fine
Right.
to deal with. But Jesse James Tucker and General Lee Brown. Now, I could not name my sons any of that. So that was a void. So when this happened, it just became became very clear in my mind that this is what I wanted my son's name to be. Benjamin Kennedy Brown. And he wears it well.
Just as out of curiosity, how did your father get to be named General Lee?
I have no idea. My grandmother had 13 children, and he was born in 1904. So I guess it relates to their understanding and their appreciation, or had to be appreciation. You wouldn't name your child for somebody you didn't like. So General Robert E. Lee, I guess, I don't know how that came about. He was a Confederacy, wasn't he?
Yeah. I noticed that, in something, that your father's name was General.
General Lee Brown. Then had the nerve to name a son General Lee Brown Jr., my brother who's deceased. And then Clarence was Clarence Lee Brown. So we've been pretty good about trying to keep names in the family.
Right.
But I could not carry that General Lee any further.
Let's move a little bit ahead in time to '69. We talked about the Maynard campaign in '68, but let's talk about the mayor's race in '69. And there's some other things around that time I wanted to kind of get into. Do you remember anything about this? This is when Massell ran.
Oh, I was, Marcel and
Or did
Horace Tate,
right? That's right.
Leroy
Charlie
Johnson.
Weltner maybe ran for mayor. I don't
Not
know.
that year.
Not that year. Okay.
Sam Marcel. Sam was my candidate. Julia and I worked with Sam. This is when Horace Tate ran. Leroy threatened to run, but he didn't run. But Horace Tate ran. And see, Horace was such a maverick to the political thing. And he was damning us as much as he was damning Sam. And that was his problem. Because Julian and I don't know whether he talked about it or not, but we got out there and defeated Horace Tate. Simple as that. If we had supported Horace, we would have had our first mayor in 1969.
Okay, well, get me into that campaign.
Well, Sam had served as a very nice bridge between black and white in Atlanta, serving as vice mayor, and people liked him. And he mixed well. He did it well. Young, good looking, and I guess if you really get down to the bottom line, Doctor, Julia and I, being upstarts at the time, didn't want Horace to be mayor because it would break our chain of evolution.
Just go into that. How so?
In the sense that neither one of us was going to run for mayor. But let me speak for me. I can't speak for Julia on this, but neither one of us was going to run for mayor. Horace Tate was older. He had been in education. Right. He had not much regard for the black politicians who had emerged.
He wasn't in the legislature at that
point. Oh, no, I would get to that. That was Get Back. But that was Get Back to Leroy, because Leroy was right there with us. And we thought that we were building a political leadership, a new political leadership in Atlanta that was electoral, not just sitting in the Atlanta Voters League dictating, but actually the political leadership. Right. Horace was not a part of that. That's what I mean. I know I said it in a funny way.
So he announced his candidacy.
He came in, he just mavericked into the process. And of course, with our little naive self, we said, no, you can't do it that way. You gotta come up the ranks. And so we beat him. We beat him, and I hope this is not read until much later. But Horace made one mistake. He criticized our hero, Leroy, and he had no regard for what was. So why should we support him?
Elaborate on both of those points, if you could.
Well, the point is, Leroy had pioneered this process, and we had followed. Horace had been an educator and a distinguished educator that we respected. But the respect was not reciprocal.
So what did he do to Leroy?
Well, Leroy probably made the mistake initially because he told me he was going to run. He accused Leroy of stalking, holding the black thing off the thing. You follow that?
Go on, I do.
I know you do. I know.
Spell it out.
He's stalking horse. I think that's what they call that.
Right.
And he accused Leroy of that, and the old political power structure had worked a deal to sell the community to Sam Marcel, and instead of encouraging the black community to galvanize and take. We could have taken it that year. We really could have. I knew it from the start, but Horace was not the man at the time.
How did you deal with his accusations or charges?
Well, I didn't get into it publicly. I'm making a confession here on this tape.
That's okay.
That's all. Horace knew it. We've talked about it, and we've become friends since that time. But at the time, I mean, I was part of a team building process.
What was Massell's relationship to the power structure?
Well,
He's not.
he was a bridge. That's the term I used earlier. He was a bridge between the white community and the black community. He's Jewish, and the Jewish culture and most black people at that time had great respect for the Jewish community because they had supported all the civil rights stuff. And Sam was the golden child of that. Of course, Ivan Allen, not Ivan, but Williams B. Hartsfield's crowd, Charlie Davis and all of them, they were suspect. You know that goes way back to the old biblical times. So, but Sam
Suspect
had
of Massell,
of Massell.
an outsider, a Jew.
Yeah, well, you said it. I don't want to get that specific, but that's what it is. But,
Charlie Davis, the finance man. At City
yeah,
Hall. Okay.
yeah. But I don't know. I'm speaking out of term here because I don't know what religion those people had or whatever. But the whole issue of the Gentiles versus the Jew issue was certainly there. And Sam was just a good guy, and we supported him, knowing that he would be a better transitional mayor, and we would have a greater hand in naming the first black mayor than we would have if Horace Tate had run.
Now, Maynard announces for vice mayor, but
Oh, we were very clear on that. That was the whole strategy. Maynard was to be vice mayor, Sam was to be mayor.
well, did Maynard consult with y'all, or did he just announce? I mean, he had sort of a maverick kind
Well,
of.
he was maverick too because he wasn't here. He had just come back to town. But we were clear on that because nobody else had declared.
And he'd run the race the year before.
And he had run the race, and this was, oh yeah, the Senate race. Now that was a maverick move. Running for vice mayor was not maverick because we all said, oh, well, he wants to be a politician, so let's.
Now, of course, Leroy and Maynard run against each other in '73, but sort of what's Leroy's reaction to Maynard?
Well, see, Leroy then had to declare where he stood. He had ceased to be our hero by '73
Okay.
because he was in trouble.
The tax.
The tax thing had started. The tax thing has started, and what else was that was going on?
He had pulled off the alley quarry fight.
Yeah, and the fallout from that was he had become vulnerable. Let's just say that he had become vulnerable, and it was ill-timed. I mean, his running was ill-timed. I mean, he had absolutely no business running, and he showed his vulnerability, and that's when Horace Tate moved in.
That was.
When Horace Tate moved in. But Horace moved in before then, though, didn't he? No, that was around the same time, 73.
Okay.
72.
So Horace moved in for Leroy's seat.
Senate seat. A seat that I was to run for. I mean, that was my seat. Everybody was waiting for me to take Leroy's seat. And people called me and said, Ben, we'll finance your campaign, but you got to run against them. Some people in town whose names I won't say. But I said, no, I cannot run against Leroy. I know I could win going to bed. I mean, Horace Tate never would have emerged if I had run in that race. But
And you didn't for what reason?
well, Leroy was my fraternity brother. He was my hero. And I just don't believe, I mean, I just didn't think it was appropriate to stump on the man when he had been such a hero for us and he made a mistake. A mistake that was not clearly understood by all the people. I knew he made a mistake in doing some of the things he did. But I just couldn't come to the point. I mean, it was so clear that I could have won that race.
Okay.
And but I did not care to run against my
Right.
friend.
Moving back, moving back.
Back to the mayor stuff.
Yeah, I also noticed there was a some proposed legislation in the House around the same time to abolish Atlanta, and you opposed that then. Do you recall anything about that?
Well, that movement was on to try to diminish the influence of black voting in the Atlanta area, in Atlanta and Fulton County. Uh, Underlying that whole um, strategy, maybe I should say it this way. In order to do that, Carl Sanders and some of the good guys and some of the bad guys came up with all sort of strategies that would make Atlanta insignificant to a superstructure, a consolidation, a merger of several counties, not just Fulton County. So that became a big hot issue. Okay, we're going to dilute Atlanta's political strength.
This is Sanders as the gubernatorial candidate, or
Now
Sanders?
Sanders as a patron saint, as a
Sanders.
yeah. Carl was like, he was patron. He was the emeritus leader who had moved from Augusta to Atlanta, big time lawyer, and still had a lot of influence. So he had a little commission or something. They came up with a 6 county consolidation or merger plan or something. And it was a hot issue. The whole thing was hot. And I said, well, damn, we can't just let them get in there and do that without somebody raising a head and saying, okay, you want to do that. That's when I came out with my revolutionary plan. I said, well, if they're going to do that to us, drop us in a 6 county area, we better get us a county. State government the Constitution favors county government, not cities. They can abolish the city. And I tried to convince my colleagues that if we merged Atlanta with Fulton County, then we would at least have one county in a 6 county government. That's how my consolidation plan got. That's how I started discussing this whole thing. And I said we would be foolish if we don't try to take over this county government. Now the population trends were moving at the time.
All right. Well, you were just getting to what I think is really a crucial point, where you're talking about the changing demographics from the late '60s to the early to mid '70s, and how that impacted Atlanta and its relationship with the other metro.
Yeah, well, the whole issue of the influence that Atlanta has on politics, policy primarily in the metro Atlanta area. There was some uneasiness on the part of the white power structure that this was going to increase. Therefore, we must dilute the black political influence. Unfortunately, the black leadership did not have a true appreciation. I don't think we had a true appreciation as a group of what was being said and how we could, sustain ourselves a little better if we did certain things, such as taking over the county of Fulton first, and then working toward DeKalb, because the population migration, the migration was going east and south, and we were getting more majority. We were moving toward a majority in both areas.
Right.
I stepped out on the plane. I offered a plan of consolidation for the city of Atlanta and Fulton County, and it was a phased kind of thing because we already had some consolidation. We got water, we got library, and some degree of parks,
Right.
sewage and stuff like that. So it wasn't a hard thing to do. And I got beat up by the black political leadership for even offering the plan, saying that I was diluting black voting strength.
Who are we talking about?
I'm talking about the black political leadership of the day, Maynard, Andy, and all the rest of them who were around.
And I saw.
I had nobody in the political structure other than Horace Ward. He was very quiet about his support, and Grace Hamilton. And Julian, I'm not sure what Julian's position was, but he understood what I was saying. He didn't take no public opposition to me.
I noticed that one who did take public opposition was Hosea.
Oh, yes. I didn't call him a political leader. I called
Right.
him a agitator. No, I didn't call Hosea. You know, at that time he was not an elected official or anything like that. I didn't call him political. He was a social radical who was nemesis to me.
Now, explain sort of the evolution of your thinking on this point from like the late '60s when this is brought up and you're opposing these abolish Atlanta things to the mid '70s when you're proposing some sort of consolidation and sort
Well,
of
I
talk about the
always
numbers.
opposed abolishing Atlanta. Abolishing Atlanta, I mean, even with my proposal for consolidation was not to abolish Atlanta, although technically it would have been, but practically it was not abolishing Atlanta, it was expanding Atlanta. My understanding and appreciation for that model was enhanced when I went to MIT to study on a fellowship in 1971. I was given a fellowship to study metropolitanization. I don't know how I was selected. All I know is I was selected and I was paid to go. And each of us had to develop a theme or thesis. My thesis was metropolitan growth, structure, finance, and racial implications. We were given travel expenses to go and actually have firsthand experience with these type governments. So I went to Duval, Jacksonville. I went to Miami-Dade. I went to Davidson, Nashville. I went to Shelby, Memphis. I went to St. Paul, Minneapolis. And I looked at those different structures. Each one of them are different.
Right.
You know, each one. But the one that was a combination of all that was very interesting to me, like the St. Paul, Minnesota model. That was the primary thing there was the tax sharing. If one county or one city had, they called it the burden, tax burden. I forget the terminology of all of that, but it was a sharing of the tax responsibility. Where in Atlanta and Fulton or in the other models that I talked about, there was not that tax burden sharing on a formula that worked to balance the budget and to provide the public services to keep the streets going, to keep the toilets running when the suburbanites came into the city. It's a hell of a model, which would have worked very well in Atlanta.
So you came back from MIT, and at some point thereafter, you proposed consolidation in the House because it has to go through the legislature,
I came
right?
back, and I was just informed, and I had a perspective that was more clear. I couldn't just holler, "Don't abolish Atlanta, don't merge here." I just saw a trend, and I said, "Well, this is the way of urban America," and I began to get in the forefront of it and active rather than reactive. And I did propose legislation to consolidate the city of Atlanta and Fulton County.
What was the what was the response of your fellow Fulton delegation members to that?
Well,
And I'm sure the delegation was divided on that issue.
oh yeah, oh yeah. It was well.
Maybe
First, it was
unified against
shocking.
you. I don't know.
First, it was shocking. It was shocking to the white folk that this black guy has come up with this plan and it has merit. It was shocking to the less learned black members. What the fuck is he doing? Pardon my expression. Is he going crazy? But for the learned members, and I know you're going to ask me who these people are, and I'm not going to tell you. But the Grace Hamiltons and the Julian Bonds understood clearly what was being proposed, and they were proud that I had put it on the table that way. Because otherwise, we'd all been backed up into a black-white standoff on an issue where we didn't have any say. The legislature could abolish Atlanta any day. So I feel very proud of having introduced it, took some of the pressure off of, it took some of the steam out of the steamroll to abolish Atlanta and to drop it to a bigger government where it would have absolutely no influence.
Now, of course, we don't have a consolidated Fulton County and Atlanta, and it's much more difficult to imagine that today, perhaps even than 20 odd years ago. But let's talk about sort of where all that went and where the opposition came from, and sort of
Well-
what happened with that whole effort on your part.
Well, the opposition came from two sources. Came from the the North Fulton conservative movement, and I can't even think of people who were involved. Maybe Cecil Turner was involved in that. And it came from the black political leadership. Maynard was in the middle of that. And
He's already mayor by this time, or not?
yeah, he had become mayor by
Right,
then.
right, okay.
In 71,
Or 73.
73. Yeah,
Right.
he had become mayor by then.
Okay.
And he was looking toward his future politics. Those were the symbolic leaders of my problem. Where it went, it just died because what I in effect did was to blow a hole in that whole movement, punctured the tire, and it has not come up again except Michael Lomax and Andy Young and even Maynard, and some of them talking about we should consolidate the government. These were discussions of the last 10 years.
Right.
So there again, I was a little ahead of myself in my proposition. It will be very difficult now to consolidate these two governments because both of them are black. So you got two black cities in one. And then you add Decatur to that. So you got a mess. It would still be, I think it would still be appropriate at this point. See, the people don't realize that the citizen of Atlanta is overtaxed, carries a heavier tax burden because we have to pay the city taxes and we have to pay the county taxes. And we also have to pay a county school tax. And but we can't send our kids to the county schools. We have to send them to the public school. That to me seems unfair. That's an overburden. That's a burden on the city taxpayer. There's a term I'm trying to get that. It hasn't come back to me yet.
About the inequality?
No, it's just a term relating to that word burden. I learned it in the Minneapolis experience.
Okay. Now, sort of again related to all of this, again as we start talking about it, changing demographics and emerging black political power in Atlanta per se, and I guess one of those races is Young's congressional race. Did you have any connection with that?
I had a lot of connection with that. We had a firm called Wright Jackson Brown William Stevens and Bond,
You mentioned that.
and we handled a significant portion of his first campaign, mainly advertising and coordinating. We didn't know, however, that there was another campaign going on the north side that that was not black, but we did our part.
What are you referring to?
I'm referring to the Moldaws, the people, that little quiet group of white folk who joined hands with Andy and made it happen.
Take me in.
I don't know all the people involved. I remember Paul Muldaur, Carol Muldaur, and I don't know any of these people. I don't know them, but that was a group of people, white folk, who came together behind him and coupled with, which we needed, coupled with the 100% black piece. Fletcher Thompson was the incumbent at the time, and we lost that first one, but we We were involved.
Now,
I was personally involved in that.
did I see some reference that you yourself entertained notions of running for that fifth?
Oh, I was going to run. That's good you asked that. This needs to be known. I was planning to run. I was organizing my campaign. I had the support of Labor and the party people. You know, I was the one I was going to run. I got a call from Jesse Hill one Saturday morning early. Jesse said, Ben, I understand you're going to run for Congress. You want to run for Congress. I had them all lined up. He said, well, you know, since Dr. King's death, Andy's been struggling, and we need to do something for him. But I got the message real quick. He didn't have to go no further. I said, Jesse, y'all want him to run for Congress? I said, I'll step back, because I'm just getting established in the legislature. By that time, I had done 5 years in the legislature. And I did back up because I knew that whomever ran, it was going to be a tough fight, and I might have been out a couple of years before we could get it. And my energy would not allow me to do that. So I said, well, listen, you guys got it. And I checked off the congressional thing off my list. I just took it off my list. I did not.
Any regrets?
No regrets. Because I leapfrogged. Instead of going up on the hill, I went down on Pennsylvania, which was more exciting to me. You know, I've been among 435 people, but over there, I was me. You know, with all of the glory and the gala, all of everything that goes with it, and I was sure about it. I understood it. I didn't have no job. You know, I don't think I've ever had a job. But anyway, I had a very clear proprietary interest in the presidency of this country. You know, and I felt good about it. Some I wanted to do, some I did, and some I enjoyed.
Okay.
Too bad we didn't have it for 8 years.
Right. Sure know what we're doing. Well, now, Massell had your support in '69. Again, the population shifted by '73. Mm-hmm. So, sort of, let's talk about sort of the decisions to run Maynard, you know, Massell's reaction, Leroy's involvement, and all the complexity of that '73 race, and sort of where were you at and all that. Your memories of all that.
73. Maynard Leroy. Well, it was. I was for Maynard, to be truthful about it, and I stayed away from Leroy because he was out of order. I mean, it just didn't make no sense. Here we had elected Maynard was vice mayor, and it was clear that he was to move on. And it was almost like the Dole and the Clinton. Maynard was looking forward, Leroy was looking backwards.
Apparently, from Massell's perspective, it wasn't clear to him.
Well, it wasn't clear to him. Sam shouldn't have run. He knew damn well he couldn't win that. You know, but I mean, we had told him. I mean, people had told him.
What had you told him and when?
Oh, I don't know. I can't say specifically any of that, but maybe we didn't articulate it. But it should have been clear to Sam that this was not going to be his shot. You had your turn. We gave it to you.
The bridge.
Yeah, the bridge. You made the bridge for us. I mean, they would accept you before they accept us for that moment.
Now, were you surprised by, or what was your reaction to Massell's campaign that year, '73? The way he ran it?
Well, it kind of got tricky, but he was being a politician. And there were some things that I know he regrets. You know, like some of the innuendos he made about, you know, the race thing.
Was City Too Young to Die?
And all of that stuff.
Okay.
It was kind of sad to see him running, even because he knew his base was us. And he couldn't win without us.
And you were
Because
going
Sam,
elsewhere.
yeah, and he tried to move over and get some more folk, but they didn't believe him either.
Who are we talking about there? Who did he try to
We
get?
talking about people who opposed him before. He thought he could. Well, you know how politics goes. I mean, are you out?
Unless we're getting to the next one.
Yeah,
Okay. Let's shift back to the state. To Carter, Sanders, and Sevedy. You supported Carl at the time. Is that right?
in 70.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I was for
Sanders.
Sanders. You know, I felt a little ethic problem there. We were going after him to do business, and we got business.
Who is we? The
Right, Jackson Brown Williams. Bond was gone by then, but we we had a contract with the man, and I couldn't see myself supporting nobody. I'm working for somebody, then I'm gonna go out there and work against them. It didn't make sense to me. It was ethic. It was an ethic question. I could only work for someone who I believed in, and at that time, Carl was the man. Jimmy had not declared, and
and you hadn't had too much dealing with Carter anyway.
no, no.
He was in the Senate.
Yeah. But when he got in there, I got scared. I said, "Oh shit, they are going to. This man is gonna win this race." I told
Carter.
Carter. So I called John Cox, and I said to John, "John, I know this sounds strange, but you've been my leader, so I'm gonna share a little something with you. I hope that you go and check out this Carter man, because he's gonna be our next governor." And John did. Now, I don't know how much John knew about him before that call, but John went and did that. And I said, "You let them know that I understand they're going to win." That's what I told him. I said, "I cannot switch in the middle of the street. I'm committed to Carl Sanders. I'm going to do all I can. But my instincts tell me that this man is going to win." And it was so clear to me. I don't know whether it was instincts or what, clairvoyance or what, but it was clear. And John turned out to be one of Jimmy's closest advisors.
What did John report
Cox.
back?
I got a picture of John Cox.
Right. What did he report back to you about Carter?
Well, he just let me know that he was in there. I mean, he was in there at the, he didn't give me any specificity.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't want any because I didn't want him to betray anything, and I didn't want to betray anything. All I wanted to do was have a friend over there. So when it was all over, there would be somebody that would say, "Oh, okay, I know they weren't with you, but this is somebody you can deal with." And that's the way it turned out. For all practical purposes, I was not named, but for all practical purposes, I was a assistant floor leader for Jimmy. I mean, I was not named that, but whenever there were any strategic votes to come up, I would always be consulted.
Specifically over the reorganization?
Specifically that and other things.
And describe Carter as a politician, sort of as the effectiveness of his governorship.
Oh, I thought he was quite effective. Anybody who reorganized Georgia politics. I mean, we actually reorganized the government.
Hold on.
Yeah, we during the Carter administration as governor, the Georgia government was completely reorganized, and that was no small feat, because what you were doing was busting up and reordering people's little kingdoms. And we got it done. And the only way you got it done was through the coalition between the progressive, excuse me, progressive Democrats and Black Caucus. We had gotten up to about 19 votes by then. 19 votes, so we could vote.
Where did the Republicans fall in that? I mean, there aren't.
It was Republicans, blacks, and the progressive Democrats. That was the coalition. Mike Egan and those boys.
Was Coverdale in there? Coverdale was in there.
He was in the Senate. Coverdale. Now, Coverdale ain't never supported anything progressive, as far as I'm concerned. I hope that we have a strong candidate to knock him out. So he's, yeah. I don't know how he got in there. That was white fellas in campaign. But anyway,
You know, now, how would you evaluate him in terms of, effectiveness to get things through? You speak well. I've seen, references where you speak well of Carter as a person during that time and his integrity and so forth. But, as an effective politician to get things through, and sort of how would you?
well, I thought he was good.
Okay.
I was always supportive of Jimmy. I backed off of him one time, and that was a political error he made. He sent his son up to talk to me about a vote regarding gasoline tax, something he really wanted. And he had not talked to me direct. And he had his boys, Frank Moore and all of them up there working at Florida. They expected me to vote, and me to carry my votes with them. And I sent word back down. I said, well, if the governor wants to talk to me, I said, Chip, tell him that I need to have a conversation with him. He hasn't talked to me about this vote. If it's that critical, he better call me. And he did. But, and we reconsidered. We had defeated his bill, and then we reconsidered, and I was able to deliver my votes after. It'd be interesting if you could pin that down to a date and check out the Constitution. There was great publicity about that because they all ran to me. They knew the only way that was going to pass was for us to get the vote. And we might have defeated it by just delaying our. But I'm not sure the outcome of it, but the exchange was just as I stated. And you might want to read the papers on that because I told them, I said, well, when you got a short stick, you have to use it very effectively. Speaking of our votes. And I said, well, Jimmy had not talked to me about this vote, and I wasn't about to try to influence anybody to vote for that. I was for the tax thing, but I took that issue to demonstrate my short stick.
So that was the one time you say that?
The one time we differed.
Okay.
Oh, he was furious. It looked like to me we defeated that. I can't remember.
Yeah,
It looked like to me we did defeat it. And then he called me down and asked why.
Okay.
And then that's when I told him.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the King portrait issue? The portrait of Martin Luther King.
Yeah. I don't think, what was the issue on that? I mean, that was clear to me.
No, I meant, at the time there was some controversy in certain circles about a portrait of Martin Luther King.
Oh, a portrait of a black person, period.
And there were three, right? There was Lucy Laney and...
Well, but that came later. But
okay.
Oh, they didn't want no black pictures hanging out. Why do we need more pictures? Of course, that was the South Georgia, North Georgia rednecks. But Jimmy wasn't against that.
No, Carter pushed it.
He made it happen.
Yeah, but it was just what you recall about the opposition and sort of getting that done or whatever.
It wasn't anything special because they opposed anything that Jimmy said. Most of them. When they found out his true colors, which were progressive, change.
Did you have any inkling of that before his inauguration?
I knew it. I knew the man was going to be good. I mean, from my perspective, he was going to be good.
And what gave you that?
Well,
I mean, he had appealed to the Wallace vote.
He appealed to everybody. He wanted to get elected, just like Bill
the
Clinton.
questionable campaign tactics that he used against Carl, you may recall.
Oh, cuffling Carl. All of that was fine. The man I knew would be a good governor. I could see it. I don't know. It didn't disturb me that he used the vulnerability of his opponents to get there. The Wallace supporters, I don't know who they were. I don't know who they were. But everybody in Georgia was, redneck. I mean, it wasn't no blazing liberals. I'm not suggesting that Jimmy was a liberal. But he was the best of the lot at the time.
Right.
And he proved to be better than that. when he got in there, as far as I'm concerned. And he obviously proved to be better than that by becoming president of the United States. You don't just get there.
Now, I saw something about how you had to deal during that time with the Attica protest over the Attica prison, the Attica Support Committee, or something like that. What was that? I just saw a
At
little
the
reference.
time, something was happening in Hancock County,
John McCown.
John McCown. And black folk out there it wasn't Attica, it was Hancock County.
Okay.
Black folk out there had armed themselves. I mean, they had bought guns and stuff. So the governor's assistant called me one morning, panicked. He said, Ben, you got to help us. John out there got them people carrying guns, they're going to have a riot out there. And I said, settle down. And I got in the middle of that discussion. I mean, it was real tense. And people don't realize how tense it was. So I got on the phone and talked to John, and John assured me that, they weren't going to do that. But he also told me, tell that son of a bitch to stay off our backs. Leave us alone. We're going to be all right. But anyway, yes, I was involved in that. That was Hancock County.
Let's go into that, though, because, what kind of contact did you have with McCown, and sort of how would you describe him? And, let's go into a bit more detail than just that you were involved.
Well, I mean, John and I were friends. I met him. I visited his place. Matter of fact, there's a little street out there named Ben Brown Circle, which intersects with Julian Bond Lane.
In Sparta.
In Sparta. But all I can say is that I liked him. He made a point to meet me, and we got to be friends. I would go out there and visit with them from time to time. And when these controversies came, they knew that. They knew that we were friends.
They, meaning Carter and them.
The political power structure, the governor, knew that we were friends. So they called on me, and I did what I could do to try to forestall or to quell and squelch. You know what I mean.
Quell.
The last.
Well, what had precipitated this particular situation?
I don't know what the actual issue was, or the approximate issue was.
Actually, Carter's aide said.
It was an issue going on. Something the state was requiring them to do. But I forgot. I don't know what they.
Okay.
What caused it? All I know, I got involved when it was.
And you talked with John, and you talked with who from the governor's staff, or who?
Rita Samuels was the key person there, and she was the one who was intermediary. It looked like there might have been another one.
What was her background before he appointed her to his staff?
I didn't know her. I did not know her. So I don't know. I never found out.
And was she like the first black person to be appointed to the governor's staff?
Oh, yeah, she was the first black in the governor's office like that. And he also appointed the first black personal security, who was a state trooper.
And what kind of role did Rita Samuel play for Carter?
She was a liaison, she was a liaison to the black community.
Where is she now? Do you have any idea?
Rita is in town. You might want to check at the one of those women's groups. Some project, some state project.
Okay.
They would know at the Carter Center.
Okay.
I mean, at the
Carter
Center or at the King Center. That's what I was really talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, they would know. She stays in touch with Rosalind, I'm sure. But she did a good job. You got to excuse me.
To the 74 race, governor's race, where there were all those people in the field, Burt Lance and, of course, Maddox and Busby and so forth, and, talk about your involvement there, choices you
Burt
made.
Lance, Busby.
Bobby Rowan was the candidate. There were
Yeah,
about
I was
8 or 9, as I remember.
Yeah, but those were the two.
Bogan,
Those were the two. No, Bogan
no,
came
that was later,
next,
right, yeah, right.
4 years later. I didn't particularly like Burt Lance at the time. He was highway chairman. He was Jim's man, but he was not my man. I worked with George Busby, and George came to me early and said, "Benji, would you help me?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "You think Julian will help me?" I said, "Yeah, you ought to ask him. He likes you." So he got Julian. Julian, I had never seen Julian actively participate in any gubernatorial race before or since. Betty Clark was in the legislature at the time,
Yeah.
and Betty signed on because we were all like three peas in a pod, and we developed what we call the BBC Act, Brown Bond Clark. They gave us a plane. They put a plane at our disposal. We went all over the state. I laid out a strategy. I said, now, we're going to break even with these folks in Atlanta. So let's not waste our time. That's going to be there. Let's go where the people are, where nobody's going to go, and let's line them up. And that's when I first, actively, and Julian will tell you this, I hope, how we organize people all over the state in small towns. We had committees and went and found the leaders, the funeral directors, the ministers, and young people. We had a goal to get us one young man like a Tommy Deutsch. Had 10 districts at the time. And I had a Tommy Deutsch type in each of those 10 districts as coordinator. We hired him. And we gave him a script, and he worked it. And people were shocked. They were shocked at the support that George Busby got throughout the state. And I would say that, I don't know what the figures would bear me out or not, but we got close to 65, 70% of all the black votes out in the state. And we broke about a third in Atlanta. And or maybe more than that. But
Well, let's talk more about the strategy, how it evolved,
Well, the strategy
different elements of the script.
Well, the script basically was first to identify coordinators, train them on how to go to people, and make them feel that they were a part of something that they were creating. That's the way you win an election. You take that, that's very simple. People like to feel that they're a part of it. And if they believe you, then it will happen. And the only way you make them believe you, you got to be honest. I mean, you got to be honest. And it's no different from the strategy that I used nationally when Jimmy was running for president. I went to places where there was a natural connection, fraternity, YMCA, church, or any other affiliation. And you just let people know, hey, look, George Busby ain't no saint. None of them are saints. But if we are serious about getting into the political process, we better be on a team. Let's create a team. George had 5% ID going into that election. And my theory was that we have to, hey, this man, he needs us. And he needs more than us. And we can't get disturbed because one of our team members got red hair as opposed to brunette. Or he might have freckles, or his neck might be blue. And then, if you believe in the man and you want to be a part of a winning team, sign on. If you're going to have apprehensions about that, we don't need you. So you don't get into issues. People talk about issues. Well, issues don't win. Organization wins campaigns. It's how you use what you know are the issues to work into a strategy of commitment and believability. Those are the key things to winning campaigns.
So you crisscrossed the state.
Yeah, we went everywhere. We had a little plane, had our own private pilot.
Did Busby kind of give you kind of carte blanche to?
Oh, I could do what I had to do. I did what I had to do. Fred Taylor was down there in Albany with the money, and whenever I needed something, I got it. Yeah. And I didn't get paid for that. I didn't charge them nothing. They might have given me some expense money or something, but Julian didn't get paid. Betty didn't get paid. that was something we wanted to do. We were saying, okay, we're gonna manifest our strength here and get involved and have us a governor, and we did. It was nice having George there. You know, you get invited to the governor's mansion, get called and say, well, who ought to be on this? Matter of fact, when George Busby got to be governor, I was able to make some recommendations to the Board of Regents, Jesse Hill, and we put him on there, and Albert Davis on the medical
Examiners.
examiner, things like that. And you do that because the people who help you get to where you want to go. You reward, and I was rewarding my seniors. And we, Julian and I never had any problem with that. Betty Clark didn't either. So when we went to him, we were unified in our askings and our things. I told him the only thing I want to do is make sure that blacks get elevated into the state government, into various places.
So this is a real kind of pivotal kind of
It was
race you're saying, you know, real
Yeah.
kind of important.
It was significantly important to the history of Georgia because nobody had, all the people were hired doing Maddox, people were hired doing Jimmy. But when George came along, it seemed to have been wide open. Boom. You know, commissions and boards.
Now, did he come to you or you come to him, or how did it sort of emerge in the beginning?
Well, that came from how did we get to hook up?
Yeah.
He came to me. You know, he asked me to help him. That's how it started.
Now, did Bond have any reservations about that? I mean, he's
No.
much more of an outsider than you. You know.
No, he didn't, because George Busby was one of the few people that voted for him to be seated.
Right.
Yeah.
Busby had also proposed the Sibley Commission legislation.
Yeah, Busby was a pretty progressive guy for the times. We had our 20th anniversary of his election
Oh, really?
last year. Up in Duluth at his country estate.
How did you work with, say, white politicians who were also in the Busby camp during that campaign, out in the yeah?
Oh man, it was wonderful. No problem. We had no problem with George. They were pleased that George was smart enough to have some people like us who knew how to handle that situation. They weren't embarrassed that we would come to town and talk to their Negroes. Of course, they called them something else, but no, they were playing. George had a strange coalition. He had South Georgia rednecks, all the blacks, non-Atlanta blacks, and Atlanta white power structure. That was the George Busby coalition.
That's
And
strange bedfellows.
yeah, and he also had the North Georgia up and coming. Well, having served in the legislature for the time he had a network of friends.
Been there 18 years or something like that.
And Joe Frank Harris followed the same pattern. Now that was, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but that was the first campaign that I worked at a professional. So,
The first one for Joe Frank at 82. Okay.
I was in New Jersey. They called me down. I said, y'all, I'm a professional now. Y'all got to pay me. So I came down, consulted with him and Norman Underwood, who was his coordinator. And he was pretty much in the same posture that Busby was. We used the same strategy, the same team, pretty much same. I didn't do anything different.
And strategy.
Only thing different I didn't do the hopping around. I had a whole new team.
Right. And Betty, your Betty and Julian's role were much the same in '74. You know.
They weren't involved.
No. I meant in '74, you all did much the same thing.
Well, we were a team. We were a collective. We didn't.
BBC.
Yeah, it wasn't like we were doing individual things. We were together. We did collective things. But you know, in order to do collective, it has to emanate from somewhere. And it was basically my strategies. He's using those listen to her.
You've outlined some of them. Make the connections, personalize it, really work the hustings. What other kinds of elements there in that strategy? Because it's very successful, clearly.
Yeah, you get to the sensitive points of the constituency. It's like going to the market that you got to go to sell your stuff.
Then it got a lot clearer, of course, when he and Maddox are in the runoff.
There was no question. It was clear.
The big problem was getting them to the runoff. Then.
The primary fight was the deal, and people were just shocked, absolutely shocked, that we were able to do that.
Now I know. I'd like to, sort of shift a little bit to the statue, the Black Reconstruction.
Oh, 1970.
You're still around, but on your way out. And
yeah, I was mentally gone, but everybody was getting all hyped up about the bicentennial. We had one guy, David Scott, Senator Scott, who's there now, who's
my senator,
who mine too, who was all excited about doing his thing. I mean, everybody was individualist. And I said, David, why don't we settle down, get us a committee from the caucus, and let's do something. I said, I think we need to have something that would be a living memorial to our, to our commitment on this bicentennial thing. He was talking about producing vignettes and all, which we did. So we organized the committee. I made him chairman.
Who was
at
the
caucus.
Okay.
I'm chairman of the caucus.
Mm-hmm.
I named him chairman of the bicentennial committee. And I said, David, I know you want to do the vignettes and your PR piece, but I think we ought to have something that would be lasting. And I said, I would like to see us donate a statue to the state that would be there and dedicated to the blacks who served in the legislature for all these years. So we bought in, and I had, by that time, put some feelers out to find us a black sculptor, and it was John Riddle.
Hey, was he here by that time, or was he in L.A.? I mean, he comes
John
from
was
California,
here.
right?
Yeah, he's from L.A. I think he was here. George Fletcher was his name, or the fellow who brought him to me. And I sat down with him, and I told him I thought we ought to do something that depicted, contribution of blacks to the state. And he said, yeah, well, that's like building up something. I said, yeah, let's build it up. We got, the struggle, the black belt, the ballot struggle, the lynching, all of these things. Can you capture that? And he did. And that was, and I said, we need to pay for this thing. So I asked all the legislators to put chip in. They did.
So it's funded privately? Or
yeah.
no?
Yeah, privately.
But who decides?
It was
the legislation. There must be legislation to approve of the statue on the Capitol grounds.
Oh, no, it wasn't no legislation. Okay. It was executive order. That, but see, my thing was, let's get this done first, and then we worry about getting it placed. I said, it ought to be on the inside. It was designed to be on the inside. So once we got it done, and of course we had to go out and beg for a little money. There were some white legislators who gave money, but it was primarily funded by black private money, no public money. And of course it took us about a year and a half to get to that point. It finally got finished, and it was not dedicated until '77. We couldn't get it done in '76. Now, by then, I'm in Washington, no longer chairman of the Black Caucus. So I kept on it, though. I kept, pushing. Bobby Hill was chairman of the committee at the time, and Bobby was incommunicado with most people, and I just didn't know what was going on with him. But I did get.
Was this by the time his troubles were starting, or was that a little bit
later?
Well,
his troubles were in motion, really, but nobody knew it. But I got a call saying, "Ben, we want you down for the dedication." That I appreciated. I came down, I flew down. I don't know where I was. on some presidential business somewhere. And I was so proud coming down there, but I was so shocked. Nobody told me it was going to be outside. And I got a little disappointed. And then, when I discovered that the chairman had insisted on not putting the marker down with my name on it as chairman of the caucus, I was really disappointed. Because you go there right now, you don't know who gave that to the legislature or to the state. I mean, you don't have any indication of that. It was supposed to go right on top there. Ben Brown, chairman of the legislative Black Caucus, commissioned by the Black Caucus State of Georgia, something like that. Ben Brown, chairman, and David Scott, chairman of the Bicentennial Committee. And somebody got that plaque because it was done. Somebody's got it, I expect it's Bobby. Oh, they raised hell. I mean, they're just limited minds.
What was that about?
I don't know. I was shocked. I think it was simply, he's not here. And they had it only happened because they were there. And then they forgot that this is something that started long before several of them were there.
How did it get moved outside from inside?
No, Bobby?
Who decides where monuments, where statues go and whatever?
Well,
Is that
the governor,
building
they
authority
convinced building authority, the governor, they convinced somebody that that's where they wanted it to go, and they were being accommodating. Now, we had agreed that it was going to be Busby. Let's see, Busby was governor.
Busby was governor.
And we had agreed that it would be on the inside. It was designed to be on the inside. That's not an outside sculpture. It's too small. But anyway, getting to the characters on the sculpture, just they're different strata, the building, foundation, moving on up. And this is the highest point on the statue, this guy right here.
The man with his arms upraised
in celebration.
Right.
The sculptor did 3 replicas from the statues. That one, the next highest, and the next highest. That one was given to me by the sculptor. The governor got the second one. And the chairman of not even the chairman of the committee, but the chairman of the publicity committee got the third one. So they did David Scott a disservice too. But all this was in high ceremony at the state capitol. And it just went the wrong way as far as I'm concerned. But I'm still proud that it's there.
Was there ever a thought of making it larger? Because when you compare it to Richard Russell or Gene Talmadge or whatever.
Oh, anything. It's just not supposed to be outside. No. That would take more money and no new effort. Nobody's going to do that. Plus, it loses its effectiveness.
Right.
It was designed for 1976. And to come back and redo it takes something off of that.
Right. It's also 100 years after Reconstruction, too. And
all of that. I mean, all those things I had in mind. And but that's a great piece right there. Now I got to get that properly marked because people don't know what it is. I probably went out and bought it.
Why don't we break for today, and then the next time we get back, we can talk about the Carter campaign and the Carter administration.
Sure.